event today in memory of Professor Sujoy Ghose. And we already have a large number of people. And I will request all of you to mute yourselves so that we can start the program. Mr. Das, you can make it go live in your
So we are live now.
So welcome everybody. The occasion today is to remember a wonderful personality called Professor Sujoy Ghose, whom all of us here love dearly. In order to start the session, I will request his close friend, batchmate, Dr. Satyen Mukherjee, to kindly now uh, give an invocation of this session.
Hello, good morning and good evening to all of you who have assembled together today. I'm going to essentially chant a few verses from the Bhagavad Gita appropriate for this occasion in honor of my close and dear friend Sujoy Ghose. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha. न जायते म्रियते व कदाचिन्नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः अच्छिद्योऽयमदाज्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतस्थाणुरचलोऽयं सनातनः Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Satyendra. Before we start, we will show a small video clip with a bass song which is sung by Srimati Alakananda Roy. So I will be sharing my screen and showing a video. After that, we will start, and this video will depict various parts and phases of the life of the person whom we all love so much. So I'm sharing my screen and playing a very short video with a song sung by Srimati Alokananda Roy of Chirantuni, who is here with us.
মাঝে মাঝে তব দেখা
করিলে বলো পাইব তোমার রাখিব আখিতে আখিতে এত প্রেম আমি কোথা পাব নাথ তোমার হৃদয়ে রাখিতে কি করিলে বলো পাইব তোমারে রাখিব আখিতে আখিতে এত প্রেম আমি কোথা পাব নাথ তোমারে হৃদয়ে রাখিতে আর কারো পানে চাহিব না পাঠ করিব আমি প্রাণপণ আর কারো পানে চাহিব না পাঠ করিব আমি প্রাণপণ তুমি যদি বলো এখনি করিব বিষয় বাসনা বিসর্জন মাঝে মাঝে তব দেখা পাই চিরদিন কেন পাই না মাঝে মাঝে তব দেখা পাই কেন মেঘ আসে হৃদয় আকাশে কেন মেঘ আসে হৃদয় আকাশে তোমারে দেখিতে দেয় না মাঝে মাঝে তব দেখা পাই
Thank you for all joining. I will first request our director, Professor Virendra Kumar Tiwari, with whom he has more than half a century connection with Professor Ghose, to kindly initiate with a few words.
Hello, I am audible.
Yes, sir. You are audible, Professor Tiwari.
Thank
Can
you.
you put on your video? Yes, we can see you
Video
also.
is on. Video
Yes,
is on.
we can see you.
Okay, that's great. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Chakravarti and other organizers for creating such a meet for our beloved friend, late Professor Sujoy Ghose. Yes, I know him from early 70s when we were in school. Of course, I was not in the same school in which he was there. He was senior to me, but I was in a different school. But every evening, we used to meet in Prem Bazaar and just to talk about several things. So right from 69, 70, we know each other. And over the years, I think we have seen the growth of each other. And last 2 years, I was more close to him. In fact, our association also went back to the second generation because my son and his son were reading in the same class, and they had tuition also together, and it was arranged in my house, and we had long friendship. I know Professor Ghose, the brilliant scholar, and I also know that he worked for 1 year in computer science department without any salary. I do not know how many of people know, but yes, he did. And such a dedicated person and a brilliant person of the campus. And I'm very happy that he was made the vigilance officer of the institute as well. And he served the institute as head of department and several other capacities, advising students and many of the friends who are here. I think I last 7 days of when he was sick, I talked to his daughter, then his and him as well. And in fact, just 3 days before he passed, he called me and he says that boss, nothing to worry, sabko jana hai. हम भी जाएंगे, आप भी जाएंगे, तो क्या है इसमें इधर उधर, आई डोंट, प्लीज डोंट सेंड मी एनीवेयर, जो है उसी में ठीक है, क्या है, जाएंगे तो जाएंगे. सो दैट डे आई गॉट सैडेंड, and I was feeling bad that he has resigned to his fate. I think I felt very bad when I heard this news. I could not go in the his karikram because I had given uh, my father died last year, and 1 year I'm not supposed to go in such, so I could not join. But I send my condolences to his daughter, and we are all together, and I'm sure he will remain in my heart at least. And thank you, Professor Chakravarti, for arranging such a thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Tiwari. Before I move to the Deputy Director, Professor Amit Patro, who also has a 50-year plus association with him, we have somebody with whom he has a very, very old relationship, and that is Professor Parimal Palchodhary, which the students who have joined will be very surprised to see after many, many years. So may I request Professor Parimal Palchodhary, a teacher to all of us, with whom Professor Ghosh set up the computer science department. Professor Palchodhary, sir, are you there? We'll wait a little if he joins again.
No, he's muted.
Sir, can you please unmute and speak? Professor Palchodhary, please. Professor Palchodhary, sir. Okay, in the meanwhile, while Professor Palchodhary is trying to join, may I request our Deputy Director, Professor Amit Patro, to kindly speak.
Thank you, Partho, for organizing this. And Professor Tiwari, Shotenda, Sudiptoda, PJ, Professor Subramaniam, I can see some of you and I can see some more names. And so to all of you, I think I cannot name all of you individually, but I see a lot of known people from IIT, former faculty, and of course, many alumni. So good evening and good morning to all of you, or wherever you are. Today is a very, very sad occasion. In fact, we are meeting on a very sad occasion. And last 1 month or so, once we came to know about Sujata's ill health, we have been all thinking, it's. I mean, we actually came to know very late, and we really all felt very bad, as Professor Theory also pointed out, that he had spoken to him and it seemed that he resigned his fate. In fact, what we actually felt so bad is that he had sort of turned his back on the society. And I mean, maybe I'm using a harsh word, but it seems that he didn't want to leave. So unfortunately, it came to that, and my association to him actually goes back to. In fact, I was born in the campus, and Sujata is my seniors, and their parent, and my father and Sujata's father, they were from the same department of geology and geophysics. So I knew him from my childhood. In fact, I remember going to their house when I was just maybe 2-year-old kid. Maybe I was taken by my parents even before that, but I remember maybe 2 years plus. And I remember that they had a cactus in their front, in their drawing room. And once, as a small kid, I had actually touched it, and I got the bite of that, the prick of the cactus. And then the uncle actually, Shreya's father, explained to me that it is a cactus. It's not a flower-like thing, so you have to be careful. So there are so many memories, and actually, so he was always an elder brother actually to me, and he was a role model in our school. And when we were in the Hisley High School, we were studying. In fact, our school was given a projector for the Sujata's performance in what I remember is JBNSTS scholarship. And so because of that, our school, in fact, the entire community, in fact, all my schoolmates, they got a wonderful opportunity to see movies. Movies mainly, of course, documentary movies, movies and things like that. But he was that kind of a personality who actually can could make it such a difference. And then when I was in the institute, I always found him to be a very shoulder to lean on. And whenever and he was an expert in computer, while we wanted to buy any computers or any other infrastructure, he was the person, the go-to person, the computers, networks, storage, and all the things. He was the resource person for all of us. And of course, he used to do smilingly. I remember, in fact, once I had gone to him, we were having a problem with some software, and we had actually installed it somewhere, and then it was having problem. So he was kind enough to even visit there without taking any remuneration and simply solve the problem with his expertise. So there is I can go on and on, but only thing is the last maybe 7 to 8 years, I found him to be kind of turning his back and not the same smiling face. So that was the only thing. It is our fault. We should not have let him sort of go away from us. But he wanted to be a free bard, and I think that's what he achieved. And from whatever I hear from the last few days, in fact, I couldn't meet him personally also because of COVID and all, which he contracted at the last stage. So I think we can just pray to God Almighty that he would have found his place wherever he wanted, and he wanted to be a free bard, and maybe he has flown to his nest. If there is a chance, I can actually play one song which I tried to sing today. And is it possible?
Yeah, sure. Quickly, then we'll move to Professor Palchadri.
Yeah, I can just sing now, or
We'll do it a little later. Let me.
No, it is attached. I don't have to sing individually. It is already sung. So in that case, I could complete it.
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, Amit.
Yeah. So I think I can share the entire screen and it will come. Please let me know whether the music is being heard. Can you hear it? Can you hear anything?
Yes, we can hear.
Can you please? Yeah, I'm not a trained singer, but I tried to sing. I tried it this morning, this afternoon. It is a Salil Chaudhary song sung by Lata Mangeshkar. So I tried my amateurish best.
কোনো ছায়া শুধু মনে মনে করে দাঁড়ি চাহি না ফেলিতে খেলা এসো এলো বেলা আর কেন মিছে তোরে রেঁধে রাখি যারে আমারই স্বপ্ন হয়ে কত কি জেগেছো হয়ে হৃদয় পিঞ্জরে ঘুষিয়া আমারই স্বপ্ন হয়ে কত কি জেগেছো হয়ে হৃদয় পিঞ্জরে ঘুষিয়া জানি অবিজয়ে গেল পাখি এবারে ভাষাবো ভেলা শেষ হইলো বেলা আর কেন মিছে তোরে রেঁধে রাখি যারে যারে উড়ে যারে পাখি পুরানো প্রাণীর মেলা শেষ হইলো বেলা আর কেন মিছে তোরে বেঁধে রাখি যারে
Thank you so much, Amit, for this very soulfully sung song. May I now request Professor P. Paul Chaudhary, a teacher to almost all the students, especially the first 10 older batches, to kindly say a few words.
Okay, Partho, thank you. Friends, as I am crossing the last leg of my life's journey, I have one realization that I would like to share with all of you while remembering Sujoy. I am not calling him Professor Sujoy Ghose because he was my younger brother. There are faculty members in community whose intellectual capability is much above the average level. But somehow the community could not derive full benefit of that intellectual capability of that faculty member. That's my feeling. Call it destiny or otherwise, it's a fact of life. Sujoy belongs to this select group of academicians. His intellectual sharpness can be gauged once he gets involved in serious academic discussions. But somehow I feel we could not derive the full benefit of Sujoy's academic ability. That's my feeling. Now let me take you back to late 70s, while Sujoy joined as a faculty member at Computer Center of IIT Kharagpur after completing his master's from Rutgers, as Sujoy, as Partho has pointed out. Since that time, we are trying to upgrade the center to the full-fledged department of computer science and engineering. Sujoy contributed, let me admit, Sujoy contributed significantly for establishing the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at IIT Kharagpur. Establishing a new department, as all of you are aware, is an uphill task. Sujoy came forward enthusiastically by my side in this forward journey for establishing the new department. In this context, let me admit one of my failures. Being a senior colleague, I should have tried to get the best out of Sujoy's intellectual brilliance, but probably I failed to do that. With these few words, let me take leave with sincere hope. Let the departed soul rest in peace on leaving the hearthy abode. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. With this, we move to his childhood, and I will request 3 of his childhood friends, led by Mr. Tanmay Sengupta, Tanmayda, to kindly say a few words. Tanmayda, kindly unmute and speak.
Yes. Thank you, Partho. With a really heavy heart, I'll try to make an attempt to speak a few words for my dear friend Sujoy. I have a very close and long association of 55 years with Sujoy. Ever since I joined Hijli High School in the middle of my school career in class 8 in 1967. Probably he was the closest among all my dear friends from the childhood days. I have spent countless days and nights with him, engrossed in late night discussions on various matters. He was almost a part of my family, so am I with his. He had also very close interactions of many days with my wife and son and guided them. Truly my lifelong friend, philosopher, and guide, he was. I owe him a lot for what I could achieve in my life till today. He was the hero of our high school batch. We call him, he was the Maradona of our class. Not only he exhibited his brilliant skills in multiple occasions, but also pulled up the entire batch to a different level, particularly the backbenchers, with his extraordinary power of explaining difficult things in the simplest possible way. Right from his school days to IIT days, his personal room was always filled with heaps of books, not only of his core interest in advanced physics and mathematics, but variety of subjects. I was always amazed by his speed of reading and his exceptional memory, or what we call the retention power. He could really foresee what was coming well ahead of time. Many of us heard for the first time about the new areas like artificial intelligence, to cryptocurrency, threats of energy crisis, to climate disaster, etc., 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 much before this became the subject of discussion in the mainstream. I cannot believe he is no more. Recently, just in the last November, a group of our childhood friends with spouses had a great grand reunion at Kolaghat Sonar Bangla Hotel. We spent a night together with what we call in Bangla with a complete nirbhajal adda. He was thoroughly enjoying the adda and he was so jovial on those 2 days. As some of you pointed out that he was a bit withdrawn for the last 7-8 years. But that day we found a different Sujoy. We could see him on the same old smiling face and the bright eyes after a long time. He was really looking forward to such addas for more often. Unfortunately, he left us too early. I met him at the nursing home just 3 days before, talked to him on his mobile after that, before he breathed his last. It was still the same smiling face and the same affectionate voice when he spoke to me. These memories will stay with me forever and provide me the strength and motivation to stand beside his family, his wife, his son, his daughter, and try to fill his void as much as I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanmaya.
I
Now,
will request Arup Dasgupta. Arup, are you there in the?
yes,
in the
Arupta has joined.
Okay, so please, Arup, please take over.
Arupta, kindly unmute and speak.
Yes, although it's a very sad occasion, my thanks to Professor Chakravarti and all other seniors, Professor Tiwari, for having arranged this Sharan Sabha, let us say. And just like Tanmay, I have been a childhood friend of Sujoy since a long time. In fact, after my first 3 years in St. Agnes School, my father was a faculty member in humanities, having joined in 1960 in KGP, Dr. Dasgupta. And so I literally grew up there. So after the first 3 years in St. Agnes, when we moved to 4th standard in Hijli High School, ever since then, up to final year in IIT, we were all together. So, and it was not just a school and college relationship. After that, except for the pandemic year and the 2 years that he spent in Rutgers, practically we used to meet every year, every year. So I really, I mean, it's very difficult for me to recount. So I will try to read out. Please excuse me if my voice breaks. Fond memories of our carefree days in primary school, full of pranks and fun, increasing in seriousness as we faced West Bengal higher secondary exams. Two of us had consecutive ranks, a puzzle which I could never resolve. In school, we were always first, second together in Hitchley High School. In higher secondary, we were separated by only 3 marks. He was 13th in the board exam, I was 14th. It still remains a mystery that even at the state level, we were just next to each other in ranking. Then, of course, we got more serious as we faced the realities of studies and higher studies. But even in college, in KGP, although he was in ECE and I was in mechanical, our meetings were less frequent. Nevertheless, addas continued wherever, whenever. So, except for a couple of years in Rutgers, we were having that ever-growing bond. Also at the family level, Tanmay, myself, and Sujoy, we got married in different months of 1981. Since then, the family-wise bonding has also been great. While I have known Sujoy for the almost last 58, 59 years, my wife Keka has also known them for the last 40 years. And Tanmay, Rita, and many others of our schoolmates who are in this session will know very well what I'm talking about. Now, as we grieve his departure, my mind mostly goes back to fond memories of our childhood. This is something very funny. I have more than our adult interaction. The mind immediately, since the last 3 weeks, has gone back to my childhood days and his association. How we used to visit each other. How we, as a 7-year-old or something, we went to the terrace of his quarters, dad's quarters, and then we made it somehow to monkey up, and then we could not climb down because our feet could not reach the required level. So we had to call Mashima to rescue us. And then the usual pranks while returning from school together. These are the things which keep coming up in my mind. Once on the day of the Holi, we decided, Tanmay was there very much, Tanmay, myself, Sujoy. We simply decided in that same night we will make a trip to Digha. When we reached the KGP station bus stand, the bus was totally packed. We were on the rooftop, and the reward we got was when we reached there around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, it was all shining on the beach with full of moonshine. So these are some of the experiences I cannot forget. Even when we were working in Calcutta for a short duration during 1980-81, Tanmay and myself, we used to always carry our monthly tickets to Kharagpur, only to make 4 weekend visits every month, which was the break-even for that fare, railway fare those days. So that Sujoy, Tanmay, myself, sometimes Madhavan, who is perhaps here, he was 2 years younger to us, he used to join, and we used to have endless adda at Nair canteen. So these are the things which really are the fond memories. And as Tanmay said, our last get-together was on 7th, 8th of November. And that time I distinctly remember telling my wife that Smita was driving. She drove from the highway towards Kharagpur. Our friends with whom we had gone, Rita and her husband, he drove towards Kolkata. And I never could imagine that would be our last meet. So with a heavy heart, I would like to finish now. And we can only hope that Smita and the children get enough strength, God gives them enough strength to bear with this loss. Personally, I do not know how to, how to combine the good memories, the fond memories with the grief that has stricken us. And that is how it is. So we have to accept and pray for his departed soul. Thank you.
Thank you. May I now request Madhavan, who is another childhood friend and son of Professor Keshav Murthy, who was again a mentor and a father figure of Professor Sujoy Ghose. Madhavan?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone. I want to begin first by offering my sincere condolences to Smita, to Rishit, to Ritika, other members of Sujoy's family, and indeed to all of us gathered here. We are united here in our grief as we mourn the passing of such a beautiful, gentle soul. My name is N.K. Madhavan. As Professor Chakravarti said, I am Professor Keshamurthy's son. I grew up on the IIT campus with Sujoy. I did not attend Hijli High School, and it wasn't until I joined IIT Kharagpur in 1974 that I got to know Sujoy and grow close to him. I am eternally grateful that I got to spend some of the best years of my life with him. When I think of Gabuda, I too think of his beautiful mind, his sparkling eyes, and his disarming smile. Although I was a few years junior, as Arupta just mentioned, I became part of Gabuda's Adda circle. We spent countless hours together, just hanging out, discussing every topic under the sun, going on long bike rides together, and enjoying every moment of life. It is hard to describe how much I learned about so many things from Gabuda. His clarity of thought, his deep intellect was always absolutely outstanding. I can still recall his wide, beaming smile, his warm, beautiful personality, and his smile just always radiated happiness and affection and made everyone smile. I miss my friend deeply. Mourn his passing. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhavan. We now move over to IIT Days. And in order to start with the IIT Days, I will request his teacher, BTech supervisor, Professor B.N. Chatterjee, who is there with us, to kindly share his thoughts.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Partho, for giving me an opportunity to talk a little bit about Sujoy. In fact, it is very much painful to hear the death of a student who was so dear to me. I remember I taught him one subject, most possibly control systems, in his third year BTech course, as well as in the final year, he along with Dipankar Roy Chaudhary worked for BTech project and thesis with myself. He was extremely brilliant student, both theoretical as well as in practical classes. And during discussions, some of you might have pointed out earlier also, I have found him to be very eager to learn about the subject and give his own ideas. So he contributed very much in academic field, as Professor Paul Chaudhary, one of my beloved colleague at IIT Kharagpur, pointed out. He contributed, but he could have contributed more. But I have found him that he always tried to know more than what I used to say. And during discussion, it was always one-to-one. It is not that always whatever I say, he is accepting, but at the same time, he made his point very clear. He was very obedient, very sincere, and I never had any problem during his project guidance. Later on, when he joined as a faculty member at IIT Kharagpur, that time also he had lot of interaction with me, just because he was known to me, and his parents, father and mother, were also known to me. So we used to meet quite. I should not use quite frequently, but sometimes we used to meet. He came to my house. Even I have visited his house, and we were very much fond. I should say we liked one another very much. I remember about 2 years back, I met him last time in one marriage reception. That time again we had some discussion, many things, even past days, and we were very happy that we could discuss. And I remember this thing, but I must say that I am very much I'm very much feeling the pain very much, because he was my student and he was one of my favorite students. With these few words, I pray for peace of his soul wherever he is. Let him remain very happy up and in peace. Thank you, Partho, for giving me this opportunity to talk about Sujoy.
Thank you, sir. May I now request in his IIT days some of his closest friends, distinguished alumnus Dr. Dipankar Raichaudhary and his wife Arundhati Di, to kindly say a few words.
Partho, thank you for arranging this event. It's a very sad time for all of us. And Sujoy was very much a close friend who, although he lived far from me, we were always in touch. And I'd like to just say a few words about him. So, as you know, my name is Dipankar Raichaudhary, and I'm a classmate of Sujoy's from the COM incoming 1971 batch. And my wife, Arundhati Ghose, at that time, was also very close to him. So we are here together to briefly make some remarks. So I would like to say that Sujoy, say only a few words, that he has been my dearest friend and professional colleague for the past 50 years. In my opinion, Sujoy was undoubtedly the most brilliant student in the COM 71 batch, as others have mentioned today. I had the privilege of working with him on a computer science-oriented BTech thesis that BNC just mentioned. And we spent many nights arguing about algorithms and different aspects of the project. And I will never forget that time in my life because I used to work with him every day. So this was also a time when we had to still submit punch card decks for overnight batch processing at the computer center. So we found that a very exciting activity, and it may have been one of his first computer science assignments. We can all talk at length about Sujoy's intellectual ability and professional achievements, including founding the CS department at KGP, as others have mentioned. But I would say more important were his unique personal qualities of independence, honor, sincerity, humility, spirituality, and above all, a good humor that pervaded the room when he would enter with his big smile. So I will forever carry the memory of his unique spirit and ever-present smile. It's hard to believe that he is no longer with us. So our sincere condolences to Sujoy's family, Smita, Rishik, and Ritun, and to the IIT community as a whole for their great loss. Sujoy was truly an original who can never be replaced. Thank you.
Thank you. May I now request Dr. Satyen Mukherjee, another of his classmates, to say a few words.
Am I audible?
Yes, Satendra, you're audible.
It is really hard for me to find the words to express my relationship and feelings about Sujoy. I came to know him, of course, when I joined IIT Kharagpur in 1971. And as Dipankar mentioned, he was undoubtedly the most brilliant mind that we had in our batch. This goes unquestionably. So my interaction with him actually happened at a multiple number of levels. The first things that used to happen, particularly before the exams, he used to come to my hostel and we used to discuss each topic, each subject. And what amazed me at that time was how quickly he could grasp these very complex things. At one time, I remember we took this optional subject of quantum mechanics. It was not a compulsory subject. And so we were trying to grapple with the complex, let's say, concepts of quantum mechanics in those early days, and how quickly he could sort of catch the essence of it, and we used to discuss that. So that was my first recollection about interactions with him. But at the same time, he always remained so kind of simple in his outlook, and I could never kind of fathom his depth of understanding just by looking at him. I mean, I don't think anybody could actually. He never displayed his let's say, brilliance, either in his words or in his behavior. I'm going to move over to another aspect of Sujoy that deeply touched me. In fact, I can almost say that it saved my life at one point in time. This was one of the summers where we were doing this practical training. For some reason, I did it in the campus, and he was also doing it in the campus with me. And during the summer period, as you know, the hostels are all closed. So I was the only, let's say, member of Azad Hall in that entire hostel. And I used to have my food in all kinds of places. I don't even remember where anymore. But in that process, I suddenly felt terribly ill, actually, with the stomach problem. I was so ill that I hardly could move. I was in my room and there was nobody in the hostel. And lo and behold, suddenly Sujoy shows up. He was, of course, in the campus, right? He shows up, and it was a kind of I think it was a God-sent thing for me. He said, "What's happening to you? Come on." He wanted to basically take me to his home and for the rest of this period, stay with him and have food by his mother. I was sort of so weak, I could not even move. So I said, I can't really go to and stay in your place. So what ended up happening, he used to come with food from his home every single day to feed me until I got actually strong enough. And for the rest of the stay, I used to basically go with him to his home actually and have meals with him, cooked by his mother. So that is something that I can never forget. But what is amazing is that later on, I don't think Sujoy even remembers that. At least he never expressed that. So that was the kind of personality he was. I had many other interactions with him. Every time I used to visit India, I used to try to get hold of him, and we used to go on certain errands for different reasons in different places. And those were some of the most enjoyable periods I spent with him. At one time, he took me to his Gurudev, actually, Shivananda Hangshapuri, and that was an experience by itself. The other small incident, I should say, maybe it's not a small one, it's a pretty big one, is when he was returning from Rutgers to India, I was at that time in the Netherlands doing my master's degree, and he decided to drop by me. So instead of going straight back to India, he actually came to the Netherlands, and together we actually took a trip to Denmark, of all places. And that was a hilarious memory for me. I mean, the way we did it, and I just cannot remember, I kind of forget some of those things that happened during that time. But overall, I think he was a personality which is very hard to describe in a few words. It's a multifarious aspects of his personality, but the simplicity is to what actually struck me and still strikes me. And I wish I had spent more time with him, and I wish I could sort of be with him in the last months or days. And I will never forget that. But anyway, let me kind of end here by wishing him all the very best in his onward journey, because I am convinced that he did what he came to do on this earth and did it extremely well. And now it's time for him to move forward. So let me say, Divyam Lokam Sagachatu.
Thank you, Satyendra. I'm sorry I will not be able to call everybody who is here because of paucity of time, but I will be there as long as anybody wants to speak. I will now rotate between teachers and students who are already here. So I had seen that Professor Desharkar or Professor Subramaniam were there. Are they still there? Okay, then may I request Professor Arun Majumdar to kindly share his thoughts. Oh, Professor Desharkar is there. Sir, you may kindly start, sir.
Okay. Yes, Sujoy, a superior soul, has departed, leaving us poorer. Superior in his intellectual capability, superior in his wisdom, superior in his analytical power, superior in his judgment, and every quality else. I am devastated. My family shaken. We are very close, in spite of age difference. How close, that was not quite discernible from outside by others, even possibly to our family members. Today, I especially remember one antecedent. We were traveling from Kharagpur to Bhubaneswar together in a midday train. It was a journey of 5 to 6 hours. We were sitting side by side. Almost immediately after the train left the Kharagpur railway yard, he suddenly opened up on his own volition. He started talking on so many matters: his own life, his philosophy, his environment, his workspace, his private space, and so many other things. As a natural response, I opened up also. We discussed so many things, so varied, and every matter, his observation was so deep, his analysis so incisive, his judgment so clear, but without malice or ill feeling towards anybody or anything. It was a reflection of his superior mind. It was enriching my mind. That day was a testimony of how close our minds and hearts are. I shall deeply remember that day in my heart for all my life. Our respective families were very close also. That was more due to our daughters Rimli and Ritun. They were born close to each other in time. From their toddler stage, they grew up together, embracing each other, so much so that new acquaintances were used to confuse which daughter belongs to which family. They're still so close, residing in each other's vicinity. My family holds Sujoy's family very, very close, very dear. It is an association for more than 40 years. Best wishes from the core of my heart will always be showered on them till the end of my life. Adieu, Sujoy.
Thank you, sir. I will alternate between students and faculty members and teachers of the institute, just to give you an idea. From the first batch, the first PGM, Subramaniam Devika, Professor Devika is here. May I request Devika to say a few words?
Thank you, Partha. Much appreciate this. A very sad occasion indeed. You know, hearing, I saw him as my teacher, and now seeing a much broader vision of him has been, you know, sort of both elevating and saddening at the same time. I didn't get the opportunity to hang around him long enough to absorb more of him. When I heard of his passing from a message you sent, you know, I was struck by. I mean, you know, the first thing that came to my head was, oh my gosh, what a loss! One of the best teachers I've had. I didn't appreciate what he did for me until my first year in graduate school. I realized that not only had he taught me theory of computation, automata, he actually taught me how to learn new things. This is a gift very few teachers have, and you know, for that we're eternally grateful. Again, I am sorry to, you know, he was not much older than any of us when he taught us, so it was very shocking to learn of his passing. I just hope, you know, he's enlightening more souls in his new abode. So my prayers for him and his family and for our department, because it's really a huge loss. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Devika. May I request Professor Arun Majumdar and Bandana Bodhi to kindly share their thoughts?
Well, it's very difficult to speak about Sujoy. He was, I mean, my family and myself were two to his family, Smita, Ritun, and Risik. After I joined the department when in the campus in a building. So we like a family.
Sir, we are losing your voice.
Losing voice?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
No.
So when
you can continue.
So what happened? See, almost like you lose your younger brother. So that's the type of relationship we had. I'm not going to tell upon the contribution to the science department. It's now eventually will be remembered by all the colleagues of our colleagues in the department, by the students. But things which are not known or maybe known to that extent is that Sujoy and myself were close in many other activities, including the so-called PGDIT course, which Professor Desharkar, myself, and many of our colleagues were involved. And with Sujoy, I used to often travel, like Professor Desharkar was saying, to Bhubaneswar, and setting up the Bhubaneswar Extension Center of IIT and establishing the PGDIT course, so which I think ultimately led to the setting up of the School of IT at IIT Kharagpur, and also the Extension Center at Bhubaneswar were provided enormous help to the setting up of the IIT Bhubaneswar also. So in each of these, in the sense, designing the course, running the course, almost every week, Sujoy was almost doing the job single-handedly. We joined with him there. But these are academic activities. Along with him, I participated in so many projects. In fact, we were inseparable in many cases. But few things that remind me, which is beyond computer science, beyond the school of IT or other, is that his interest in diverse aspects, particularly about the environment, and also was once briefly mentioned by Professor Desharkar about the cryptocurrency. I think it is around the 2000, beginning of 2005 to 10, sometimes Sujoy had a passion of global warming. Not many people thought about it. The global warming was there was in the distant horizon, but he continuously sounded that yes, the global warming is coming. Yes, the predictions that are being made are wrong or biased. We will be reaching a catastrophic point very soon. That was his regular topics on discussion where Sujoy used to insist upon that we must take some specific steps on global warming and how to address some of these issues. Regarding the cryptocurrency or other blockchain and all those technologies, it was again in some time, almost more than I think, almost over 10 years, he was saying about the problems of the monetary system, both in India or abroad. And his passion for cryptocurrency probably is known about the many of his colleagues. That but at one point of time, he was insisting on buying Bitcoin. So we used to joke about it. Why are you trying to become Bitcoin and trying to force on it? But now everybody knows what it is turning out to be. And his predictions were again coming out to be true. So what I am saying, that in many cases, because of his intelligence, because of his analytical ability, and outside the knowledge beyond the computer science horizon bandwidth, he could foresee many of these things. This is his sheer intelligence. Many a times I also, along with many of our colleagues, joked about it with him, but he could never be, dissociated from that predictions or passion. I'm extremely sorry that I talked with him when he was in the last few days, when I heard that he is seriously ill and he will require, his bilirubin level has gone up. In Department Institute is contemplating of shifting him to Kolkata, and that is the last time I spoke to him. I was pleading with him to come to Kolkata and get a better treatment if possible. And he just said, last word I remember, he said, Arunda, will you want me to die on the road? I just couldn't answer. I just left saying, do whatever you feel like. So his loss is a personal loss to me also. And I hope his soul remains his peace in wherever he is now.
Thank you, sir. May I request from the second batch, I saw Professor Sudhir Pal or Professor Punya Brata Palik. Any one of them can kindly speak. Sudhir, are you there? Or Punya Brata?
Hello.
Yes, Sudhir.
Can you see me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I would keep it very short, and I would like to mention the initial days, how Professor Ghose, everybody has told so many details. So I'll just tell you how he used to take care of one end, the cyber, the Riyadh 1030 IBM 360 clone on one end to keep it running for our labs, At the other end, he used to take our classes, several courses. I remember his creation, non-numerical algorithms, graph algorithms, recursion. Those were the things we were introduced, and the way he taught us without spoon feeding and making us think in the class and looking at problems influenced our thoughts over the years. So he has also on the human side been very, very magnanimous and helpful to all of us, always with a smile and always ready to help us, we students. And then later, as a colleague since 1990, I have been with him and learned enormously from his expertise in academics as well as in other matters. So he is an expert in various, he was an expert in various things, and those things we'll remember always. The void that he has created and the amount of contribution he had for the department and institute are enormously going to be remembered by us. So we pray his soul rest in peace, and his family and friends and all of us can bear with this very untimely departure. We salute him and bow down to Professor Sujoy Ghosh. We call him fondly Sujoy, but to me, he has always been a teacher first. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Sudeep.
Thank you.
May I now request another colleague, Professor Ajit Pal, to kindly speak. Sir. Professor Pal, kindly unmute and speak. While Professor Ajit Pal gets ready, may I request Professor Pitimai Bhattacharya, who was a partner in setting up the computer science department. Professor Bhattacharya, I saw you are also here. Pitimaida? No, he has left. So on behalf of the senior faculty, Professor Subramaniam had also joined. Is he still there, or he may have left? Professor Pitimai Bhattacharya, Professor Subramaniam, Professor Ajit Pal. Anybody? I think they are muted. So may I request the third batch, both PJ Narayanan and Sandeep Sen, to kindly say a few words.
Thank you, Partha, for organizing this. We were part of the third batch of computer science at Kharagpur, but we joined the department in 1981 because Kharagpur moved people into the computer science after the first 2 years of common study. This used to be a 5-year course those days. And the department was small, with about 30 students had joined us before the first 2 batches. It was probably low in facilities, but very high in spirit. And CSE itself was new, and faculty were, trying to learn how to teach this. And the 3 people we remember as the pillars of, the founders of the department. At least I remember Professor Parimal Palchaudhary, who just talked a few minutes ago, a serious person, hardworking and eager to give us more and more of the subject than we wanted to learn. Professor P.D. or Pannalal Dasgupta was a traditional scholar, a composed, respected professor. And then Sujoy Ghosh was on the other end, cool, casual, friendly, brilliant, in our language, a funda person or a cat in the department, but also a bit mysterious. First of all, the mystery in at least our minds, one of the factors was we heard he had gone to, like everybody else those days, went to the US to study, but he didn't like the life there. He came back after a master's and joined the institute as faculty again. That was a little bit mystery by itself. But in third year itself, he started teaching us, for the first course he taught us, I remember, is switching theory and finite automata. And this course, as usual, went above all our heads those days. And I remember once our midterm exam or something, we complained that the exam paper was okay, but it was too long. He came quietly, solved the paper on the board, the whole paper, and it took him 30 minutes. He looked at the class and just smiled. And we just stood there stunned. I remember also, apart from and he taught us several courses after that, and, algorithms and recursion and all that I remember quite well. But one of the, he was not just a teacher. You remember his office in the first floor in the corner, at least those days. And he mysteriously used to close the doors of his office, and he was doing something there deep in thought. And we used to like sneak and find out what he was doing. And some of my, my classmates were actually had long conversation with him, not about computer science, about many other things, his aspects of society, how social change, he had a lot of ideas on all that, not just the computer science. And he was very friendly with students. My classmate Subodh Gupta just reminded us they used to sit in the canteen and have tea together. And probably Sujoy was a force when Subodh himself, he left computer science after a couple of years working in ORG or somewhere, and he took to social, to doing work in the society and rural areas. So when I look back on Sujoy, I was never very close to him in a personal sense, but I still remember his smiling face and piercing eyes. He's a very friendly as a person. The smiling face indicates that, but he has deeply probing person as a scientist and thinker. That was the piercing eyes part of it. He was, I now realize he was the subconscious model of an ideal professor that I carried. He was too simple and too inimitable that I can try to imitate him, but he was probably a deep inspiration inside us to be friendly to the students, at the same time do the best academically to them. Only my students can tell if I learned anything from it, but now I realize that was one of the models. When I heard of his departure, it was very shocking. He had just retired formally from the department, but it was way before his realizing his potential. He has a strong background force in developing computer science in Kharagpur and in India. There is a lot to achieve in technology and society following his path, and all I want to appeal to everyone is let his smiling face and piercing eyes guide us forward in our own journeys. Thank you for organizing it. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you, Partha.
Thank you. Before I move to Sandeep Sen, who will also speak from your batch, may I request Professor Ajit Pal to kindly say a few words.
So I came to know about the shocking demise of Sujoy from a Facebook message of Pritimoy Bhattacharya. It was very difficult for me to believe that Sujoy is no more with us. Then I tried to contact some of my friends and colleagues who are in Calcutta and who were close with Sujoy, and it was confirmed that he is no more with us. So we were together for a very long time. So since the department started back in 1981, he was there, and I joined in 1982. So he was very active in organizing the labs, in forming different courses, as some of my colleagues have told. PGDIT course, he was one of the main person in that. We also joined, and as you know, when a department is started, a lot of things have to be done. It's a Herculean task, because you have to not only frame the syllabi, you have to set up the laboratory, you have to do many things. And Sujoy was very active in doing that. And actually, that time, he was responsible for computer center. And then together, he was also looking after the department. He was also associated with the department. As a result, he has to spend a lot of time, and he very efficiently he did that. And we were family friends. We used to visit each other's house when we were in Kharagpur. I was in Kharagpur, and his loss is immense for the department, and we have lost a friend. And I pray to Almighty for peace and tranquility of the departed soul. I think I cannot say much more on him. Thank you very much.
Sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. May I request Sandeep, Professor Sandeep Sen? Sandeep, you have to unmute. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Parthu. So good evening to everyone, especially many of my former teachers. I'm so happy to see them after a long time. I wish the occasion was a happier one. And also many of my contemporaries. Much of what I thought I would say has been articulated by other speakers. So I'll just try to highlight a few things that really just it's little different or the way I remember. So there is no undisputably, he is one of the sharpest, the laser sharp intellect that really stood out. That has been sort of mentioned by everyone. And when I first met him, it's the eyes that shone like amber, that really sort of caught my imagination. So when it comes, so I have also been briefly his colleague, but I'm speaking more as a student. That is how I remember him. When he would come to a class, I mean, again, it's something that has been noted before. You make fairly complex things, just unravel it so easily. That's really used to catch me. It's like it's not about covering a subject; it's about uncovering the mysteries. That's where basically a teacher really stands out. And I can't see any parallels of that, even though I went to graduate school and met many people. In fact, on one occasion, when I came back to Kharagpur briefly, as a colleague in computer science department, I unhesitatingly mentioned to him that he's one of the sharpest intellect that I've ever met in my life, and I have met many smart people. I've worked with many smart people. But the only thing that he would do is that he almost blushed, and he felt very embarrassed. I remember that part very well. And the other thing that I recall is he would hardly use the entire the 50 minutes of the class. Whatever he wanted to teach, he would be done in just about 15-20 minutes. And most of the time, he would make us work. Actually, he would pose the problem in the class, and then after a while, we are all sweating and struggling. He'd go to the board and just like PJ said, in about a couple of lines, and it'd be very hard to read. So that's the other part. His handwriting was fairly illegible, and he couldn't even write in a straight line. I mean, with different font sizes. But then it was worth basically reading through that, because it would just be like demystify everything. So as also a career teacher myself, I have really tried to emulate. I mean that part that that somehow the essence of a subject needs to be basically brought out in a subject. And even if I have been 50% successful, I'll be very lucky. And one more thing I remember, when I was joining IIT Kharagpur back in 2004, just prior to that, I needed a little bit more time to join, which is usually not given because there is a time period given for us to join. But, he really sort of believed in me when I told him that I need a little bit more time, and he gave his full support. And so, like Amit, I would say that, the kind of person he is, I mean, that analogy of, being liberated from the shackles of our earthly existence, I think, that's the way to characterize this person. So may his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. May I request Professor Pritimay Bhattacharya, our other teacher with whom Professor Ghose set up the computer science department. And many students will again be very happy to see Professor Pritimay Bhattacharya. Sir, kindly unmute and speak. You are not unmuted yet. Pritimayda, you have to unmute. Pritimayda, kindly unmute. Sir, you have to unmute. Yeah, we are still not getting you. There is a button at below. You're using your phone, is it? I cannot hear. Sir, we cannot hear you. Sir, while you unmute, Professor Bhattacharya, we cannot hear you. Kindly unmute. Maybe you can rejoin, then it'll help us. Yeah, now
Hello?
you're, yes.
You can hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, thanks a lot. Sorry for giving everybody trouble, actually.
No,
But
sir, we are all waiting. You cannot
oh,
imagine how many students are so happy seeing you.
that is okay. Yeah, regarding Sujoy. Actually, Sujoy was my colleague and also friend. And since 1979, actually, we are knowing each other. Sujoy in a nutshell. So this is, I think, is not the platform we can think about Sujoy's thought. I think that another arrangement can be done actually, then we can have a academic discussion later. But in a nutshell, I'm telling you that our feeling was this, that Sujoy was a wonder actually, and is basically can solve most of the problems we are facing. But this is not only the teaching or research. This is regarding that suppose checking the answer scripts, you're having some 120 into 2 in one slot actually. So that is, we are basically very serious regarding the checking the answer scripts, because we want to see that the judgment, it should be delivered and nobody must be unhappy. And anyhow, that Sujoy was having his own tricks and trips, any of that. Always there is a debate regarding on that. But partially we applied those things and definitely got the results. And another thing is that in his tenure, Sujoy, I do not know that never got any bad feeling, that got any bad expression or any complaint from the students ever. So that means then definitely he was handling with something which is applicable. So definitely, and another thing is the very big thing. He was always available for any kind of discussion. That is a fantastic thing, and I must be honest that there must be a rivalry there. So because both of us we joined as a lecturer, but Sujoy is having also the other advantages, because he was a very good student. We're also good that way. So all the no bad students is coming in IITs actually. So, but anyhow, that he was having so more other advantages, and also that he could go through most of the formal courses actually, that we are basically not having, because that is the first time we are opening the department, and some people came from electronics, people came from mathematics. So I came from mathematics. So there was a mixture of all these things actually. But regarding this Sujoy, they can other things that he was having. So when the cloud was not invested that time, I remember, but the Sujoy created his own cloud long back. So he was having his own doctrine. He was having his philosophy. We had a lot of discussion with them. Yeah, I didn't agree with him on many counts, but still I remember that for any intellectual pursuit, if you want to really hold some discussion, want to talk with somebody, then Sujoy was absolutely the person who will come first actually. So let me finish now, because I have so many things to discuss, so that is not possible now. And many thanks to Parthapratim Chakraborty, my ex-student, and actually he arranged with a very short notice, actually he arranged all these things. Now If you allow me, at the end, I have written a small poem and just to dedicate to his memory of Sujoy. So, but that is written in Bengali. I'm sorry. অধ্যাপক সুজয় ঘোষ স্মরণে একটা সুন্দর জীবনের অবসান, মারা গেল একইভাবে যেমন ভাবে বেঁচে ছিল। অনেক বন্ধুদের সঙ্গে, প্রত্যেকের প্রকৃত বন্ধু হয়ে আমার হৃদয়ে থাকুক অবিচ্ছেদ্য অনন্য সেই বন্ধুত্বের স্মৃতি। নমস্কার। Thank you, Partha.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. May I request Professor Shantanu Chaudhary, who was doing his PhD at that time, to kindly share his thoughts.
Sorry.
Shantanu, kindly unmute and speak.
Partha, we are really grateful to you for organizing this meeting to remember Sujoy. I was part of possibly the first batch of PhD students who joined formally computer science department. Me, Partho, and others in the department. I'm going back to those memories and feeling very kind of unsettled, because Sujoy was really philosopher, guide, and friend to all of us who had just joined for PhD. And I was from EC, went for job and came back. And my exposure to computer science and understanding of computer science in a very informal way happened through Sujoy. And I still remember AI, heuristic search, for the first time, and that was explained like a plain, simple words, and the way he could inspire among us the excitement of research, I remember even today. For the first time, I think the systems dynamics, I came across that word and I read subsequently some of the books around it. Those are academic part, but as a friend, he became part of our life as long as I was in Kharagpur. When my wife, Lipika, she came back for PhD, Sujoy was very close to her and her work that time. I think Lipika may touch upon, because he became like a part of our family as long as we were in Kharagpur. After that, we lost touch. I think last time I met when I visited IIT Kharagpur for the Distinguished Alumni Award. I remember his smile. We went together and have a smoke outside. And these days, I can't imagine that he's not there. When I saw the message, it was so very surprising and unsettling. I can't imagine. I can't describe. It's really touching for me. I wish his departed soul to rest in peace, and really possibly he has got his abode which he was searching all his life through his philosophical pursuit. Thank you, Partha.
Lipika, you want to say a few things?
I would just like to add to it that I was very lucky to have him as my SRC member. Immensely benefited from discussions towards the end of my PhD. I particularly remember while I was writing my synopsis, I was staying there for a few months again at Kharagpur. It's really impossible to believe. One thing that strikes me when I hear from his ex-students, colleagues, is that I possibly knew him close for a period of, I think, early 90s when I joined Kharagpur as PhD, when Ritun was very small. And that was really a very jovial period possibly of him. So I distinctly remember our trips to Waldorf I have very pleasant memories of that time. And later, of course, I benefited a lot from his scholastic thoughts that he shared. I wish, my prayers are with the family. I wish peace for the departed soul. Thank you, Partha.
Thank you, Deepika. Professor Anupam Basu, Anupam Da, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Partha, for the opportunity. Sujoy was one of the closest colleagues whom I met at, whom I came across and worked so long at the computer science department. I joined the department in 1985 and soon could discover him because we were asked to share the same room. But as everybody said, he always kept himself covered in a sort of mysticism. But an opportunity came when we traveled to Ranchi in the same compartment, that was my first journey in AC first class. And when I mentioned that to Sujoy, who was my coop mate, I would say, and he immediately laughed aloud and said that, yes, it was also his first. So very soon I could see that the person, the man, the human being inside Sujoy opened up. And when I came to Kharagpur, I used to keep myself restrained from discussing on social issues and other things with the colleagues. But here I found a person who really everybody has talked about his brilliance, no doubt about it. But his brilliance spread out much more beyond the era of computer science, beyond the area of computer science. And he was really socially conscious. Always he had a definitive view and vision about the type of development that we are going through. And he was always questioning that. I differed with him. I could not agree with him in all aspects, but I could never ignore him. Such was his personality, such was his placement of the reasons. It could not be ignored. We could have differed, but in that process, every time I discussed or debated with him, I returned back enriched. On the personal front, we are very close. As many of us say, many of the other colleagues said, we are also very close as families. My elder daughter and Ritun, Rimli, all grew up together. In Aman's marriage, Suyada came and he told me that I have worn the same attire that I had worn in my daughter's marriage. So in the second daughter's marriage, I decided to wear the same attire. He was such a nice human being, so affectionate. It is really painful to really come to terms that he is no more. I really feel that the computer science department will bear his legacy, and the future of the department will also keep his memory engraved in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anupam. Jaikumar, Professor Jaikumar Radhakrishnan. Jaikumar, would you like to speak or just?
Yeah, I do not have that much more to add. Many wonderful things have been said about Professor Ghosh. I'm particularly happy to see Professor Desharkar, Professor Ajit Pal, Professor Pal Chaudhary, and several others who taught me. I have recorded my views on using the form. He was a very kind person. I interacted with Professor Ghosh on actually hacking the BBC Micro, which was donated to the department for some time. Unfortunately, we did not completely manage to do that. But I will carry his memories all my life, and he was a very inspiring personality to me. Thank you very much. I wish the family all the strength, and the department also all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayakumar. Thanks a lot. Professor Jayanta Mukhopadhyay is not only a professor of computer science, also a student of the institute. He is also the dean of outreach, including alumni affairs. And Jayanta, would you like to say a few words?
Okay, thank you, PVC, for giving me this opportunity. In fact, Sujata was very close to me because though my interaction was quite late compared to many of you, because I joined this department. Before that, I knew him, but I did not interact him so closely. So when we became colleagues, then very often, I mean, we have interacted, and I am benefited on various fronts, not only from his technical depth and knowledge, solving problems, as somebody mentioned. He is very good at it. He is very practical person. I mean, he has various views which I do not agree, but on the question of common life, question of practices, administration, he is very practical. He is very wise, and I was so much benefited by his wisdom. I can just mention two things what I mentioned to my colleagues also. So when I was holding some of the positions, and it is regarding the purchase, as you know, that these are certain things which is always bothering you, the rules, regulations. So Sujata has given me very simple advice. Sujata told me, see, in the file you should note whatever you feel. If there is any complications, but you feel that you should go ahead, just write that, and please go ahead. So that is one advice I find, that is a very transparent and strong advice which I like to follow. And second point, second other thing, when I was the head of the Department of Computer Science, so many of them I used to take his advice for various decisions. So there also he told me that call a meeting, call all the colleagues, discuss and settle the issue. That is the best. And also keep a minute of your meeting. So these are certain small anecdotes what I can share, but we have strong associations in the sense that before COVID, almost every day we used to go to our nearby tea stall and used to have a chat about say 15 to 20 minutes. And as others mentioned, that he shared all his views about the catastrophic views, particularly the climates, concerns about climates, nuclear disasters, what may happen, also the economic turmoil, what is coming up. So those concerns are very serious, and I do agree, though many other views I do not agree also with him. We have a debate, but never know. It was always a friendly debate, and we respected each other. I should say yes, Sujata also is a very good listener, and he also valued other suggestions. He's very open. He has a very strong opinion, but he's very open also. So really, I cherish his memories, and it's a great loss to my department, to personally to me also. I was very much looking forward, because of this COVID, we could not have those sessions, but unfortunately, we lost him. So my condolences once again to his family, to his friends, and definitely he will be with us, and we would try to keep his memory. We will keep his memory alive in our institute, in our activities also. Okay, Partho, so I'm handing
Thank you. Just to move to a different flavor, may I request Professor Shushmita Shurkole, the other only woman PGM other than Devika, who is also a campus person. Shushmita Ji, would you like to say a few words?
It's really shocking to have lost Shujada. He was 4 years senior to me in school as well in the department, the comm department. So in those days, we hardly interacted. I joined Hijli High School in the year 1970 in class 7. And Shujaida was in the final year, I think, class 11. So at that point of life, it's very senior, the senior-most class. But all of us heard about him from our teachers that he was brilliant in his exams. However, we saw him, unlike other the toppers in our school, who were very serious and studious, we saw him take part in all the extracurricular activities, the annual program, such as Tagore's Tashet Desh. He played the Rajputra, the prince, which is the main role, and many other things. And I am also from the campus, so we could see him go around the campus on a cycle with his friends at any time. While we were going to school, or after school on holidays. And then when the teachers said that, all of you should see how Sujoy is performing, we used to wonder, when does he study? So then when I joined IIT Kharagpur again, he was in the final year. And since in those days in the 5-year courses, the first 2 years are not in the department, there was not much interaction. Although his father's quarter was quite close to where we lived. So, in the campus, once in a while, I would see him go by on a bicycle, but there was hardly much interaction. Much later, when I came back from MIT and settled in Kolkata, and I used to go to IIT Kharagpur on certain occasions to the department, it was then that we started interacting, and I made it a point, if I visited the department, to stop by his office, and he would discuss once again, as many others presented. And he was outstanding in whatever little he said, in his very mild and soft manner, but very firm views, very rational views. So it's kind of an unthinkable loss for all of us who knew of him and then later on interacted with him. He was actually a glory in the campus, and us juniors, all the the elders used to sort of set him up as our example that he was an all-rounder and very brilliant. In fact, when I went to the US, I think in the first winter break, I had an opportunity to meet Arundhati Dee, whom I had interaction with when they were in IIT in the Essen Hall, and Deepankar Da. And that's when I came to know that Shujaida had come with them to Rutgers, and after his master's, he had returned. Somehow, when he had returned, I was still in the department, in the comm department, but he had started working with Professor Besharkar, I think, if I remember correctly. But there was not much interaction. But anyway, it was a very untimely demise, and all of us are in a great shock. There are no words in which I can express my condolence to his family, although I did not get to meet the family. And I do pray for the peace of his soul. Thank you, and I wish the department bears with this loss. Thank you very much, Partho, for letting me share my...
May I now request the next batch, Professor Uttam Kumar Sharkar from Director IIM Calcutta, who is also his direct student.
I suddenly find myself in 80s with all familiar professors who taught me, Professor Deshakar, Professor Pal Chaudhary, Professor Pal, Professor Majumdar, Professor Bhattacharya, Professor P.V. Chakravarti, and so many others, with a shocking realization that Professor Ghose is no longer with us. Unacceptable. So much of memories, because ours was a strange batch. After BTech, 5 of us stayed back for doing MTech and even PhD. I think the only exceptional batch, our batch. So during our BTech days, it's really reverential fear or awe, as I would call it. Very sharp, bright eyes. We're scared of Professor Ghose. It changed completely when I started doing my master's, because we're KGP students. I expressed our feeling that could we have something really new, exciting, and he says, "Okay, we'll teach you. I'll teach you something new." I asked what. He said, "Let me decide." Right, and he goes to the library. He picks up, I remember, a couple of books by Stafford Beer, and that's when he said, "I'll teach you cybernetics." So I did not know about the subject that time. I asked him what is. I also don't know much. I'll study, and we'll learn together, right? And that's when the real Professor Ghose came into being. God knows, all my MTech classmates will bear me. I would say the same thing. No, overnight he must have read at least 100 pages, right? And next day in the class is beautiful introduction to the subject, this viable system, and we got really stunned that how could somebody do it? And that was one of the most exciting courses in our master's level, the cybernetics and man-machine interaction. To us, there are so many such experiences. I'll just narrate one more. I was doing PhD under Professor Desharkar and working very closely with Professor Ghose and Professor P.B. Chakraborty. After everything was done, and the boring job of writing a thesis and all, everything after several iterations, about to submit, Professor Ghose says, before you submit, somebody should read it cover to cover. All right, and you're not the best person because you wrote it. Who can do it? And suddenly tells me, okay, I'll do it for you. You come to me a day or two later, I'll do it. And just 2 days later, he calls me, and unbelievable. He must have read very seriously, because quite a few typos, even language, sentence construction. He marked everything throughout the thesis. I said, no, these are things you need to correct. I wonder how, a couple of nights somebody could have done it. Others were saying about his speed of reading, speed of thought. This bears testimony to that. During my PhD, I'll also occasionally go to his house. Both to Blue Ritun are very small those days. Would meet Smita Bodhi. It's really, I can't accept it. So shocking. Wherever he is, may his soul rest in peace. One thing I observed about him during those 10 odd years I spent at KGP, he would always do what he felt is right in his own way. So he lived his life in his own style. That's my limited understanding. I think he did that till the end. So must have been happy man that way. He did what he believed in. And my condolences to the family members, Smita Bodhi and the kids and others close to his heart. Thank you, Professor Chakraborty, for giving me this chance to see. And nice seeing all my professors who allowed me to be where I am today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Uttam. I'm sorry I'm not able to call everybody of every batch. I'm trying my best, so please excuse me for whatever I'm doing. May I now request the next batch, Vinod?
Thank you, BBC. And it's although under adverse circumstances, it's very good to see a lot of all the professors with whom I spent many years. I am one of those unusual guys who did my bachelor's, master's, and PhD in Kharagpur at one shot. And Professor Ghose is the only supervisor I've ever had. So it's a very special relationship. I mean, we are not friends. I'm not like, I'm more friends with say PPC and all, but it's like, if you look at my younger formation years, so to say, he would be the third person responsible after my parents for my formation in that period. And like we don't get to choose our parents. I also I didn't have too much of a choice about who was my BTech supervisor. We just give a choice, and depending upon the ranking and all, then you end up with one of the projects and the professors. And that's how I first got interacting with Professor Ghosh. His demise is unacceptable to me, because for me it's the 6 years I spent with him in late 80s to sort of early 90s, and that's the period in my mind. And as youngsters, we always think that our parents and people like that would be around forever, and Professor Ghosh fell into that category for me. With my father, I saw him grow old and be bedridden, and so I knew he wouldn't be around longer. My mother was very active and well and passed away in her sleep. That was very unacceptable to me. And Professor Ghosh passing away at this early age, much earlier age than my parents, is also is totally unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. Well, I'm not going to go into his brilliance and education as a teacher and all, because that's what made me who I am. So I'm not really going to get into that and explain much. But a couple of anecdotes. I mean, for a period of 6 years, I would have interacted with him every day, multiple times in a day. This would be from mid-87 for 6 years. I did my bachelor's project with him, and that's when I decided that I want to do a PhD and I want to do it with him. And he didn't have his PhD then, so I had to wait till he completed his PhD before I could. Then he said, okay, you go and register with another faculty member, I will work with you. That was, so he didn't want a credit. He was happy to guide me for my PhD, even though formally he could not have been my supervisor. But I decided to wait. I said, no, I'll complete my master's. I'll wait for you to finish, and then we will do it. I mean, I'll do it with you. It was his encouragement that made me choose, or, he encouraged me to choose a topic which was brand new at that time. I don't think anybody else in the faculty even knew that topic. And I had no clue. I mean, he told me, okay, there is this topic, why don't you check it out? And that's how I started doing it, doing a PhD. And, everything I have worked since in different, among everybody who spoke, I believe I am maybe one of the few people who, or maybe the only one who's not a faculty member today. And everything I have done in different industries, in different circumstances, all stemmed from that training I received during those 6 years. That's BTech through MTech and PhD. And what is firmly etched in my mind is, during these 6 years he was my supervisor, he got me to do things, or he got me to do things without any fuss. There was no scolding, there was no raised voice, there was, for that matter, there was hardly anything spoken between us. That's what I remember the most. He had this uncanny ability to get things done by me totally silently. And I remember spending many nights sitting in his living room, several hours, contorting ourselves to read the drafts while blowing smoke outside the windows through partially open windows. He was very particular about that. He didn't want a smoke lingering inside to cause any discomfort to his son. So we had to do it in that particular manner. And we would spend, a few hours later, I would be cycling back with a revised draft, a bunch of corrections, a few suggestions in my mind on what to try out, what more to work out. But hardly a few sentences would have been spoken by him in that few hours. I guess that's what stays in my mind, and that's the anecdote which stays in my mind. I was when I was shocked by this news when it came from BBC, and I was speaking to my wife, and I related this to her, saying that, okay, this is what comes to my mind when I think of Professor Ghosh. How we spent
Thanks, Vinod. I'm sorry we are running a little late, but we'll extend it for some more time. We have another campus boy, another PGM, another person who was influenced by him, Amit Chatterjee. Amit, would you like to just say one or two sentences, please?
Hello, Partho. Thank you for arranging this. It's a really...
We cannot see you. Somehow your camera is not focusing on you.
One moment.
One moment.
Amit Chatterjee, 1984, President of India, gold medal winner, worked at Microsoft. Yeah, Amit, please.
Partho, maybe you can have somebody else talk. I'll fix the camera and I'll get back.
Okay, thank you. So we move on to 89 batch. Janani, would you like to say, or Sudeshna or Prasenjit, any one of you? Sudeshna, are you there?
I am there. I was just waiting for Janani or Prasenjit to speak. So Professor Sujoy Ghose, I have been his student from the early days. He was my BTech supervisor, my PhD supervisor, and definitely he has a very important role in shaping my academic life. He was a very gentle and affectionate as a teacher, never imposing anything, but supporting the students, and his deep intellectual understanding always has been an inspiration and actually encouraged us. I was also close to his family, especially his mother had a very inspirational role on me. And I do not know how many times I had visited their family, and it was very enriching and wonderful experience for me. Later, as a colleague, and he was a big influence. And like many other people, they will all miss a person who had such a multi-dimensional interests. He was futuristic. He talked about technology, different aspects of social and climate change, sustainability, financial systems, all of which I could not grasp, but which seemed very futuristic. And he had a mind of his own. He had a lot of philosophy, and a lot of his intellectual power was something which has always awed us, and it is unbelievable that he is no more.
Thank you, Sudeshna. Amit, would you like to speak now?
Right, Partho. I hope you can hear me and see me. Thank
Yes,
you
yes.
for arranging for this session. It is really sad that we are assembled here on the loss of Sujata. Otherwise, it would have been such a nice session. It's so amazing to see all my distinguished teachers, my friends, many of my friends from there. It is really sad. I grew up in the Kharagpur campus, so of course we all know Sujoy, particularly because my elder brother, Paresh Chatterjee, was Sujoy's classmate from Ghose High School as well as from IIT Kharagpur. So growing up, Sujoy was always a model for us. He was a rank holder in higher secondary. JB and STS scholar, all of us in Ghose High School looked up to his accomplishments. So it is really sad. I lost my own brother, Paresh, 10 years ago. So I know how tragic, how unfathomable this sudden loss is to family and friends. I sort of grew up admiring Sujoy from the distance, did not interact much with him directly. But of course, as many people have said, anyone who has seen Sujoy, what stands out is the sparkle in his eyes. We say that the eyes are the window into our soul. And there was something in those eyes, that sparkle, the mischievousness, the brightness, which is so vivid. And also he was so humble and unassuming. Later on, recently, I also learned about his spiritual pursuits. And that was, again, when I felt so proud of him. And it sort of became clear to me that one person who is so spiritual to his core, now that explains his humility, his unassumingness, and the brightness of his eyes. It is quite tragic. I was looking forward to catching up with him again when there was time. But God had other plans. I can only say that may Sujoy rest in his eternal peace. And I offer my heartfelt condolences to Bodhi, the family, and all his colleagues and students. Thank you, Partho, for arranging this.
Thank you, Amit. Anybody from the 1990 batch is here? Pallab Dasgupta was here, but I think he had to leave. Otherwise, we'll move on to Shaumen and Sunita from the 1991 batch. Shaumen and Sunita.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Shaumen.
Hi, thanks PPC for organizing this, a very sad occasion. Professor Ghosh was my first Guruji in computer science. He taught me my first course in computer science in IIT Kharagpur. My subsequent life has been surrounded by brilliant computer scientists, but no one gave me goosebumps with avial trees and polyphase Mozart, or evoked such wonderment with planarity testing or recursion in Lisp. Beyond these inspiring courses, he tried to knock much good sense into me, accompanied by his signature, amused, indulgent, sweet, very compassionate smile. Pranam and goodbye, Guruji. I hope to be a more worthy people of yours in a simpler, gentler world. Thank you, everyone.
Sunita?
Professor Sujoy Ghosh was, he introduced me to research. He was my BTech advisor. I was too inexperienced. I was just not worthy of him. I don't think I got even 10% of what he was saying. But I just still remember his beautiful smile, his handsome face. And he was really handsome too. I don't know I mentioned that. And, and I just used to kind of just watching him and PPC sir talk was a treat. And I will cherish that face, that sweet smile forever. Thank you, Professor PPC, for organizing this.
Thanks, Sunita. Tirthankar Lahiri, are you there? Next batch.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I actually, I put a few comments in the chat already. Professor Ghosh took my final year parallel algorithms class. Honestly, the thing I recall most of him was he had a very lovable demeanor. He was just this very disarming, very charming person. He didn't come across like an intimidating, very senior faculty member. He came to our class as if he was sort of there to learn with us. And his teaching style was the chapter, it was fun. It was interactive book. In fact, I think, I said this in the chat, he never took roll call because he knew if anyone didn't show up to the class, they wouldn't understand what he was talking about the next time. So he said automatically the lack of attendance would be self-penalizing. So he never wasted time on roll call. And he made the whole class very interactive, very exploratory. He used to invite students to come up and express opinions. He would ask us to remind him of what he had said the last week, because he sometimes said, I forget what I taught you last week. Please help me pick up again this time. So, that whole experience is very, very friendly and jovial. And I didn't know at the time that the stuff he taught me then would be with me every single day. Because what I work on right now is basically in parallel systems, symmetry vector instructions, maximizing throughput on concurrent systems. All those basic concepts are learned in that hot classroom in KGP in the afternoons. I think his class was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. A lot of my batchmates didn't show up because it was after lunch and it was hot in spring semester. But that's really my recollection of him. And he was a very magical professor. I thought very endearing. And it's because of this endearing interactive style that the concepts he taught us, I never forgot, because they're all basically ingrained in his, in his delivery. And really, he made it fun. I really enjoyed his class and I enjoyed working with him. I regret not having spent more time with him in Kharagpur. For whatever reason, he and my batch didn't intersect as much. But of course, I knew of him and I used to meet him frequently outside of class as well. But that's my 2 cents for Professor Ghosh.
Thank you, Tirthankar. We move on to the next batch, and the PGM of that batch is also here, Supratik.
Yeah, thanks PPC for organizing this. It's a sad occasion, but it's amazing to meet so many of my teachers and also a lot of other seniors. So I won't take much time. I've put a few comments on the form. But what I didn't interact much with Sujata during our BTech course, BTech curriculum, because I don't think he taught us a course. But then I have gone back to CSE department, IIT Kharagpur at many times since graduating from there. And on most of those occasions, either I would run into him or walk into his office, or and what really stays with me is his. I mean, as many of you have already said, the smile on his face. I mean, it's a very a smile which sort of said that to me. He said that the smile said that he knew exactly what I was trying to say, and he understood probably better than me what I was trying to say. But his very short, and so I kind of agree with Vinod that he wouldn't speak much, at least in my discussions with him, but the few words that he spoke were profound, and these were both on. I mean, I've had discussions with him on both technical and non-technical matters, and it's just amazing. I mean, the kind of depth of understanding and depth of knowledge from which he spoke. And it's really hard to believe that I won't be able to meet him during my next visit to Kharagpur. I mean, it was always such a wonderful experience, having those little chats. Well, I guess that's how destiny had to have it. Very untimely demise. My sincere condolences to his family. Thank you for organizing this.
Thank you. Jaithi, would you like to say a few words? Jaithi, are you there? Okay. Janani, would you like to say a few words?
Hi. Um, I don't know what to add beyond what others have already added. Um, again, just want to say that Professor Ghosh's smile, his handsome looks, his quiet demeanor, I'll never be able to forget. And thanks to Sudeshna, I got to meet his family too. And I just cannot believe that he's no more. Um, and thank you, BPC, for organizing this. And it's been, I wish it were under happier circumstances, but I was happy to see so many of my professors and my seniors. Thank you.
Thanks, Janani. For many of you, I will request for you to get another angle of Sujoyda, Professor Ghosh. Prasenjit Dasgupta, on behalf of the department staff, Prasenjit, would you like to say a few things? Prasenjit, are you there? Can you unmute and speak, please? Yeah.
Yes.
Put on your video, please.
It's a very unfortunate incident. I know Sujoyda as Orub. I am seeing Orubda and Tonmada I met during Sujoyda. I don't know whether Tonmada can recognize me. My brother's name is Vishwajit Dasgupta. Okay, so I know
Of course,
Sujoyda.
everybody recognizes you. You were a kid.
Yes, so actually Sujoyda, Orubda, Tonmada, everybody knows me very well. I was a kid when they used to come to my house. So that way I know Sujoyda from my very childhood. And latter days in 1985, I have joined the department, and I'm very fortunate enough also to work closely with him regarding many technical things. The most important is the laying of network points throughout the institute, and by converting from thick Ethernet to the fiber optics cable laying. Sujoyda was the head of the computer center, and that time I was in department, but we worked closely doing the whole thing. In latter days, the hostel connection also, I was fully involved, and Sujoyda guided me that do in this way, that way. He was everything, whatever I have learned regarding the doing practical works, this. So Sujoyda was there, as well as Professor Majumdar told, that setting up of PGDIT labs in IIT Bhubaneswar and IIT Kolkata. Again, I was the technical person to go to Bhubaneswar with Sujoyda. That time also I met one of his friend, Vishwajit Naik, there at Bhubaneswar. He was my brother's friend and Sujoyda's friend. And in Calcutta also, doing the infrastructure of the PGDIT labs. So anyway, I will miss him. As Vinod was telling, it's really our software lab is also in the first floor next to the Sujoyda's room. So we will miss the smile of Sujoyda. He says nothing, but a smile after look. That is really a hard that we will miss him. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prasenjit. May I ask Professor P.P. Das and Mimi, if you all are there, to kindly briefly, we will close in another 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, good evening, good morning, everybody. I didn't have Professor Sujoy Ghosh as my teacher. I was in electronics, and so it was in the hostel that PPC and a few others, Jyotirmay Da of his class, those who were in the hostel used to talk about the legend of Professor Sujoy Ghosh. And you want to say something, Mimi? Come. And it was not before I started doing my PhD that I started to know Sujoy. And it was, as everybody has said, that the brilliance, the difference in the outlook of everything. So I would just, but what amazed me is the person in him. I mean, for the long years that we have been together in the department and in the campus and in the family, whether it was my son not being well to whether we actually did the first startup in IIT Kharagpur together. Myself, Shujada, PPC, Professor Desharkar, Professor Arun Majumdar, they all will recall it. And what amazed me is his depth of understanding in stock market, because our first project used to be on Calcutta Stock Exchange. And he used to teach me, at least, and quite a few of our colleagues as well, in terms of how does the stock market work, what needs to be done, and so on and so forth. So that kind of a breadth and that kind of an interest in everything. I left the department in between for over 10 years and came back in 2011, and he called me and asked, what are you going to do? So I gave him some, very exciting research plans in computer science and all that. Then he asked that, have you thought how the temperature is going to rise in the entire world in the next 20 years? How is your computer science going to solve that problem? So we have had several interactions on the climate impacts and so on. And his depth of reading in that was really amazing. Mimi, want to say anything?
I think, don't remember exactly when we met and how we met. But while we remember the green days of Kharagpur, I always call it the green days. We were young, Adda used to be our life. And as Lipika mentioned, like the Waldi days and everything. Now, he was there, a very pleasant person, a kind of a dada. We used to call him Sujoy. Like a very pleasant presence throughout. And I was talking to Smita Di also a couple of days back, and we were discussing what lovely time we had together. The children grew up together. They had, they had enacted plays together. So that was a different Kharagpur to me, because I don't stay here now. And certain people, they have a different impression, and you remember them throughout. So that's what.
So we'll miss you, Sujata. We'll miss you.
Thank you. Thank you. Arundhati, would you like to say a few words? You have to unmute.
Yeah. Sorry, PPC, that at the beginning I said I do not need to speak, but I thought that there is a period of his life which was not covered. And so I just wanted to mention that. By the way, my name is Arundhati Raichaudhuri, and I'm not a great speaker, by the way, so I'm going to read from something. I am Arundhati Raichaudhuri. My maiden name was Ghose. I'm a batchmate of Sujoy Ghosh from the E department of IIT Kharagpur. I came to know Sujoy as he was a very close friend of my husband Dipankar, and over the past 50 years, I developed a deep friendship with him. Though I now realize that we did not spend too much time, mainly because that we live in USA and he is in India. And in earlier days, we did not have this phone, WhatsApp and all those things. But still, we forged a lifelong bonding with him. And especially during his brief stay in the USA from 1976 to early 1978. So after graduating from IIT in 1976, we came to the US for graduate studies. Dipankar and I came to SUNY Stony Brook, and Sujoy came to Rutgers University in New Jersey. It was a very special time of our lives. We were full of excitement for being in a new environment and having the opportunity to study at an American university. Computer science was a relatively new subject at that time, and I remember Sujoy was genuinely enjoying his CS classes at Rutgers. He was bubbling with enthusiasm when he told me about a new subject called graph theory, that he was learning and how he proved 6 theorems on the first day of his class meeting. And it I wanted to mention that actually later on, my graduate work also was in graph theory, maybe just a coincidence. So in addition to having a wonderful educational experience, we also had a great social time together, either in our Stony Brook dorm rooms or in the house of Dr. Bijon and Aruti Ghosh, Sujoy's uncle and aunt in New Jersey. Together with other friends, we went on many road trips to Delaware, Washington, Virginia, and New Hampshire. It was indeed a very happy time in our lives. By January 1978, Sujoy decided to return to India after completion of his master's degree. Though some professors were very keen to take him up as a PhD student, but perhaps he just wanted to return to his roots. And as we all know that he spent rest of his life in Kharagpur, it is very gratifying to know that he was instrumental in establishing the first undergraduate CS program in India, and that he taught and mentored the first generation of computer scientists in India. This is certainly the most appropriate legacy of Sujoy. Our deepest condolence to Smita, Rishik, and Ritun. Deepankar and I will dearly miss him for the rest of our lives. Thank you, PPC, for organizing this wonderful event, and wish all the best to IIT Kharagpur. Thank you.
We'll have, sorry, I will not be able to accommodate everybody. So, Sharmishta Chakraborty, would you like to say a few words?
Well, Professor Chakraborty, it's really nice of you to ask me. I was Sujoy's batchmate. I was in chemistry, spent 5 years in IIT Kharagpur, and he became a really good friend. Although our subjects didn't match, but that didn't matter with Sujoy. And we've been in touch more or less throughout, thanks to Deepankar and Orundhuti, who have also been instrumental in keeping me in touch with Sujoy. But now I live in Kolkata, and sometimes when I went to IIT Kharagpur for some work, or just like that to visit friends or otherwise, I always went there and I called Sujoy, saying that I was there for a very short time. And Sujoy, in spite of being so busy, he would definitely come and see me for whatever time, you know. And I really am very grateful for him to keep that association. And one other thing, I don't know, you may not know, he became a member of Calcutta Club, and we met on the day he was having his interview. I was sitting there talking to some friends and suddenly found Sujoy there. And knowing him so well, I was wondering how come Sujoy is going to be a member of this club. And no wonder I never saw him there after that. But anyway, I mean, that's something different. You've all spoken about his brilliance. We always, even being batchmates, we were awed by his tremendous intelligence. But he was such a nice guy. I'm sure you know what that means. He never showed off. And he could talk to you on your level. And it was a pleasure talking to him. I'm going to miss Sujoy, especially when I go to Kharagpur next time. Thank you so much, Professor Chakraborty, for letting me speak.
Thank you. Dipannita Banerjee, would you like to speak? Okay. Yes, please.
Sujoy, Professor Sujoy Ghosh was Gabuda to me. And He was my Mastuto Dada. And I had visited Kharagpur a countless number of times and was very, very close to my Mashi, who was a source of inspiration to me on a lot of aspects, which I cannot elaborate here. And Kabuda to me was something which was unfathomable. As all of you added in this meeting, it's truly unfathomable. His brilliance we came to know from all sources, the ranks, the academic brilliance. But as many of you pointed out, that talking to everybody at their level, whatever their level, it could have been as simple as Tagore's Sahoj Path or Rabindranath or Feluda, whatever. It was unimaginable that this encompassing of this trajectory means how he could cope with this and remain smiling and witty and humorous and generous at the same time. I'll miss you, Gabuda. Thanks.
I'm sorry for deciding to close. I know, Indradeep, if you can write your thoughts on the chat, it will be very helpful. And Indradeep, would you like to make one sentence?
Yeah. One thing I wanted to highlight was the course which he took for our MTech, which Uttam spoke about, had a tremendous impact on software engineering, total quality management, and systems thinking, which was taken forward by me in the IT industry, and which made a difference in terms of the so many large number of software companies which are having the CMM level 5 about 10 years back. And that was inspired by Sujoy Ghose's Stafford BS systems thinking. Shekhar Srinivasan is here. He has seen that happen in HP ISO when this revolution was led. So I would give some credit to Sujoy Ghosh in stirring the systems thinking approach and how apply process programming and people programming from computer science abstraction, which I learned from Sujoy Ghosh during my BTech and especially in the MTech. And this only shows how Sujoy has stirred something into the industry, which probably he was also not aware of. And I had the good fortune of meeting with Sujoy Ghosh in late 90s to tell him about the impact that he did and how it has impacted the industries. Professor Subramaniam also knows about it. He was our software engineering teacher.
Thank you, Indradeep.
Yeah.
Before we close, may I make a request to Bodhi, Ritun, and to Blue? They need not speak anything. They just can put on their cameras, unmute, and so that everybody can see them, because everybody wants to share their thoughts with them. And nobody needs to speak. Ritun? Bodhi?
Yes, thank you, everyone. It was really, really very. I cannot speak how I'm just. It was really overwhelming for me. I'm feeling so overwhelmed. And another thing is that I just got a different aspect of my husband from you. And that is something new to me. So I'll just say a few words from Rabindranath Tagore, that is, তোমায় নতুন করে পাবো বলে হারাই ক্ষণে ক্ষণ আমার ভালোবাসার ধন. Cannot say anything. Thank you so much.
We'll conclude with a song from Lata Mangeshkar, and Professor Tiwari is also here. With your permission, we will conclude. And I will just play Lata Mangeshkar's song on this occasion. So please bear with me. With this, we come to the end of the meeting today. We have recorded this meeting and we will share it with everybody else.
Thank you. Namaskar to all of you. Namaskar to all of you. Thank you, Professor Chakravarti, for arranging such a nice tribute to our friends and departed soul. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Whatever you have to write, please write down in the chat or share in that form or email me, and we will get back with more because there is a lot of interest from students and friends to do something in his memory for a long term, and we will get back to you on all this. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Das, you can stop the recording and the stream.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.